where we attempt to help Americans think for themselves again, and in the process, bring truth to the minds of humanity. My name is Alexander McCauley, and over the next few minutes, I'm going to be covering the fact that right now we are in a period of revelation. What does the word apocalypse mean? It's a Latin word that means to reveal. Now, we often think of the actual revelation as being what's revealed, but during the times that are foretold, it also reveals who the events reveal who will side with God in the operation of creation, or who will side with the devil in the operation of destruction. Just before the Revolutionary War, a literary bloke by the name of Thomas Paine wrote a book called The Crisis, in which he describes the period of apocalypse very aptly. These are the times that try men's souls. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will in this crisis shrink from service of their country, but he that stands by it now deserves the love and thanks of men and women. Tyranny like hell is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. What we obtain too cheap, we esteem too lightly. It is dearness only that gives everything its value. Heaven knows how to put it properly. Heaven knows how to properly put properly a proper price on its goods. And it would be strange indeed if so celestial an article as freedom should not be highly rated. Over the past 2 years, we've been going through what would be regarded as an apocalypse, a period of revelation where people prove themselves, whether they're willing to learn, whether they're from which sources they wish to learn, and what ideologies they're willing to espouse. Over the past year, I basically called it the hostage crisis for one reason. There were forces willing to do anything to make you believe something that would force you into a state of digging in, burying yourself prematurely, etc. these sources were, what is it, inaccurate and relied on something we're going to be covering today called logical fallacy. But before we do that, I would like to read you a quote from Frank Herbert's Doom that says something very, very profound about the power of fear and how to overcome it. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. So, through the process of facing your fear, instead of fighting your fear, you come to know yourself. Those who are constantly fighting fear, trying to gain a false sense of security, lose themselves in the process. Our help in this process of learning about ourselves through facing our challenges and fears is something we call conscience, the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit, etc. And this operation of allowing whatever it is that is bothering you to pass, pass over you and through you and come to pass, once again, is the operation of coming to know yourself. And the Holy Spirit is there to help you through this operation. Now, about 17 to 18 years ago, I was what has come to be called red-pilled. I realized that everything that we witness in politics, the news, etc., is carefully designed to evoke fear and produce a response, a reactionary response. So, instead of looking at it as the immutable truth, I decided to look at both sides of the question. The mainstream and those who are talking about other ideas in regards to the same situations. Here on Faces of Truth, we try to look at both sides and then come to a logical conclusion on those sources, come to a medium where we may have truth. However, recently it has become ever increasingly hard to figure things out. Case in point, a few months ago on 4chan, when 4chan and 8chan, when Donald Trump started pushing this vaccine, lethal injection, there was a very interesting rumor going around that perhaps if you replaced COVID-19 with cabal, secret combination, Anglo-American establishment, you name it, and vaccine with red pill, or change your sources for information, etc. That basically what Donald Trump was doing was warning us to go over to more accurate sources that would give you information that would save your life instead of schnookering you into taking a very deadly shot that would destroy your life. Over the last few months, we have seen revealed doctors who would rather keep their paychecks, stay on good terms with the establishment, the international establishment, etc. And they have, we've also seen politicians who wish to keep us under this hostage crisis, using this protection racket as a premise to shut up anyone who opposes their opinion. Now, a lot of this is built on something that we call in public speaking logical fallacy. And whenever anybody uses logical fallacy in a presentation, it's supposed to automatically demolish their credibility. However, this has not been happening. The people that use these logical fallacies are literally deified as gods. Omniscient, omnipresent, and absolutely flawless beings who could not indulge in the operation of deception. One of the most prevalent figures in our minds nowadays is Dr. Anthony Fauci, and those that ascribe to his ideology of a deadly pandemic. Now, let's go ahead and go through. I actually downloaded and printed a master list of logical fallacies so that we can evaluate our news appropriately according to whether it is actually credible. this is the master list of logical fallacies. So this is everything that you could do to damage your credibility in a public speaking setting. Fallacies are fake or deceptive arguments that prove nothing. Fallacies often seem superficially sound and far too often have immense persuasive power. Even after being clearly exposed as false, fallacies are not always deliberate, but a good scholar but a good scholar's purpose is always to identify and unmask fallacies in arguments. Ad hominem argument, also personal attack, poisoning the well, the fallacy of attempting to refute an argument by attacking the opposition's personal character or reputation using a corrupted narrative, argument from ethos, i.e., he's so evil that you can't believe anything he says. See also guilt by association. Also applies to cases where valid opposing evidence and arguments are brushed aside without comment or consideration as simply not worth arguing about. Appeal to closure. The contemporary fallacy that an argument, standpoint, action, or conclusion must be accepted no matter how questionable or else the point will remain unsettled and those affected will be denied closure. This refuses to recognize the truth that some points will indeed remain unsettled. However, society would be protected, crime would be deterred, and justice served if we sentence you to life without parole, but we need to execute you in order to provide some sense of closure. See also argument from ignorance, argument from consequence. This argument from closure is really interesting because they've been using this to push the vaccine a lot. the common quote from the CDC is get vaxxed or you are or the world will die. Basically an appeal to closure. Appeal to heaven. Also, Deus Vult, Gott mit uns, and manifest destiny, the special covenant, an extremely dangerous fallacy, a diluted argument from ethos of asserting that God or a higher power has or ordered, supports, or approves one's own standpoint or action, so no further justification is required, and no serious challenge is possible. I.g., God ordered me to kill my child, or we need to take away your land since God or destiny, fate, or heaven has given it to us. A private individual who seriously asserts this fallacy risks ending up in a psychiatric ward, but groups or nations who do it are far too often taken seriously. This vicious fallacy has been the cause of endless bloodshed over history. We see it again reincarnating in the atheist assertion of Anthony Fauci that he is science, follow the science. An appeal to the science or the heaven of the secularist. Appeal to pity. Argument argumentum ad misericordiam. The fallacy of urging an audience to root for the underdog, regardless of the issue at hand. In other words, those poor, cute little squeaky mice are being gobbled up by mean, nasty cats that are 10 times their size. A corrupt argument from pathos, see also playing to emotions. So, in this case, those who refuse to get the jab are suicide bombers killing the rest of us. Well, the other day I did the same thing to those who got the jab. Well, the thing is, all the evidence proves that those who are jabbed produce spike protein that is shed through breathing, through fecal contamination, etc. And so, literally, those who are unjabbed can let's say, catch spike protein by ingestion, and other ways. I mean, and by absorption, because these spike proteins are millions of times smaller than our pores, which means they can easily infiltrate through the skin barrier. And that is a scientific fact, whether you choose to believe the data, and there we go again, and appeal to data. If you go to the appeal to heaven, appeal to tradition. Also, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. This fallacy that a standpoint, one minute, this fallacy that a standpoint, situation, action, or right, or action is right, proper, and correct simply because it has always been that way, because people have always thought that way, or because it continues to serve one particular group very well. A corrupt argument from ethos, that of past generations. In America, women have always been paid less, so let's not mess with long-standing tradition. The reverse is yet another fallacy, the appeal to novelty. In other words, it's new, and therefore must be good or improved. This is one of the argument to novelty is one of the ones that they use incessantly in regards to the lethal injection they are now calling a vaccine. And during the first year of the hostage crisis, 2020, we saw them using the argument according to tradition or precedent of a man who was fined $5 for not getting vaccinated for the Spanish flu, I believe it was. Or was it the smallpox vaccine? I forgot. Anyway, he was given the opportunity to get vaxxed or get fined. He chose to pay the fine and not get the vax. However, they wouldn't tell you the whole truth. They told you what they wanted, that the legal system brought him on the carpet for not getting vaxxed. Yes, but they gave him a choice. He could get $5 stolen from him by a government that was too jabby at the time, or he could get jabbed. Argument from consequences. The major fallacy of argument fallacy of arguing that something can be true because if it were 1 minute. The major fallacy of arguing that something cannot be true because if it were, consequences would be unacceptable. The consequences would be unacceptable. Global climate change cannot be caused by human burning fossil fuels, because if it were, switching to non-polluting energy sources would bankrupt American industry. Or doctor, that's wrong. I can't have cancer because I did I did that. That mean because if I did, that mean I wouldn't live to see my kids get married. Anyway, let's see. Well, let's go back to a few of the quotes from the mainstream news that dog our present security crisis in the United States. Illegals can't be flooding the border, because if they were, we'd be hearing about it, and then shutting down all journalists on the southern border. The shot can't be the lethal injection can't be killing people, because if it were, we'd be seeing people dead by the millions, and then shutting down all collection of data that would show us that yes, indeed, it is killing millions, or more than the average shot has in its first rollout. Would have qualified it for a recall in any other period of time. Okay, so argument from ignorance. The fallacy that since you don't know or can never know or cannot prove whether a claim is true or false, it must be false or it must be true. In other words, scientists are never going to be able to positively prove their theory that humans evolved from other creatures, because we weren't there to see it. So that proves the Genesis 6-day creation is literally true as written. This fallacy includes attacking the evidence. In other words, your statistics mean nothing. that proves I'm right. This usually includes either or reasoning. In other words, the yet can't the vet can't find any reasonable explanation for why my dog died. See, that proves that you poisoned him. There is no other logical explanation. Corrupt argument from Logos, a fallacy commonly found in American political, judicial, and forensic reasoning. So let's go ahead and try and pick out some of this argument that's see also argument ex silentio. So we're talking, the example is talking evolution and how it, their inability to prove their argument proves that Genesis 6, the person's interpretation of the Genesis 6-day creation is accurate. Whereas a lot of people who advocate for the Genesis 6-day creation are interpreting it the wrong way too. So both sides of your argument that are inaccurate. 6 days, well, and the data you can find out there is actually being compiled into a 3-volume series called The Universal Model. You can find this at universalmodel.com. Dean Sessions goes into great detail on physical properties of matter that actually physically disprove in the laboratory the processes that present-day geologists have traditionally espoused to justify the millions of year or billions of years model of the Earth creation. After that shameless plug, let's try and apply this to present. Oh, okay. You can't prove that it wasn't COVID that killed the patient, so it must have been COVID that killed the patient. And vice versa. You can't, anyway. But that a lot of that has been going on in news articles on both sides of the argument. Argument from inertia. Also, the stay the course argument. The fallacy that it is necessary to continue on a mistaken course of action even after discovering it's a mistake, because changing course would mean admitting one's decision or one's leader or one's faith was wrong, and all one's effort, expense, and sacrifice was for nothing, and that is unthinkable. A variety of argument from consequences or the appeal to tradition. So let's go ahead and compare this to an argument that's been being made by our best friends in the mainstream news. Let's see. It can't be a mistake to get vaccinated, because if it were, even though the COVID cases in Jerusalem and other high vax nations have gone up, it will be an immense waste of time and resources for us to change our policy of vaccination right now. As a matter of fact, we're going to go ahead and prescribe boosters to enhance the effects of the clot shot, lethal injection, now being called a vaccine, so that even more of you get more severe side effects. Argument for motive. Also, questioning motives. The fallacy of declaring a standpoint or argument invalid solely because of the evil, corrupt, or questionable motives of the one making the claim. In other words, Bin Laden wanted us out of Afghanistan, so we have to keep up the fight. Even evil people with corrupt motives sometimes say the truth. And even those who have the highest motives are often wrong or mistaken. A variety of ad hominem argument. So I'll have to say that a lot of my compatriots on the questioning, well, I'm not going to say questioning, refuse the vax side, they refuse the lethal injection side, often go to this argument to make their point. Fauci killed gays during his trial of anti-HIV drugs, and he killed beagles doing experiments, which basically makes him look like a monster, which personally I think he probably is, but I'm not, you really can't attack someone on those grounds if you're going to retain credibility yourself. The data from the tests, his contemporary tests, his output, his product is what you are supposed to go out and find, and by that you prove that he basically should be removed as a credible source for information on anything medical. The counterpart of this is the fallacy of falsely justified or excusing evil or vicious action because of the perpetrator's purity of motives or lack of malice, i.e., he's a good Christian man. How could you accuse him of doing something like that? In this case, that would be accusing Trump of being in on the genocide that's being perpetuated with the lethal injection, because he's pushing the injection. However, I do notice that most people that get into the presidency during some point in their administration or following have been used to betray the American people in one way or the other. Case in point, the NSA. Case in point, Obamacare, which is far from affordable care, but it was named that. And then, of course, you've got COVID-19, which of course is being used to push us into a general acceptance of the Affordable Care Act and its subpar medical service that it offers. Argumentum ad baculum, also ad argument from the club, the fallacy of persuasion by force, violence, or threat. In other words, give me your money or I'll knock your head off, or we have the perfect right to take your land since we have the guns and you don't. Also applies to direct forms of threat. In other words, believe in our religion if you don't want to burn in hell forever. Also can apply to take the shot or we'll send you off to a COVID quarantine camp. Take the shot or you'll lose your job. Take your shot or you can't come into our store. Take the shot or. No, what was it that Brian Stelter said the other day? No shoes, no shirt, no service. Argumentum ex silentio, argument from silence. See also argument from ignorance. The fallacy that if sources remain silent or say nothing about a given subject or question, it is itself proves something about the truth of the matter. In other words, silence can tell us nothing about God. That proves that God doesn't exist. Or silence admits, or science admits, it can tell nothing about God, so you can't deny that God exists. Often misused in American justice system, where contrary to the Fifth Amendment, remaining silent or taking the fifth is often falsely portrayed as proof of guilt. Right now we see this in regards to the news anchor and documentary producer Alex Jones pleading the fifth on his case, or on January 6th. The courts are portraying that as his confession of guilt because he's too afraid to actually show up before the September 6th commission, which has been rigged to basically put all of our best minds behind bars and break them to their to become part of their side. Bandwagon. Also argument from common sense. Argumentum ad populum. The fallacy of arguing that because everyone supposedly thinks or does something, it must be right. In other words, everyone knows that undocumented aliens ought to be kicked out. Sometimes also includes lying with statistics, i.e., in other words, surveys show that over 75% of Americans believe Senator Smith is not telling the truth. For anyone with half a brain, that conclusively proves that he's a dirty liar. So let's go ahead and look at this argument from the other side, and then I'm going to point out that we also, those who are questioning the narrative, also use that argument a lot. The argument is that everyone's doing it, so just do it. Right now we're seeing that this particular argument used as far as our lovely clot shot is concerned. Everyone's doing it, So everyone's jabbing, so get jabbed. Then, of course, we've got the argument from the other side. Or a lot of people are dying from the jab, so don't get jabbed. That didn't quite apply to that argument. Begging the question. Also circular reasoning, falsely arguing that something is true by repeating the same statement in different words. In other words, the witchcraft problem is the most urgent spiritual crisis in the world today. Why? Because witches threaten our very souls. A corrupt argument from Logos. See also big lie technique. So let's see. The anti-vax problem is the most urgent health crisis in the world today. Why? Because anti-vaxxers threaten our lives. Big lie technique. Also staying on message. The contemporary fallacy of repeating a lie, slogan, or deceptive half-truth over and over, particularly in the media, until people believe it without further proof or evidence, i.e., what about the Jewish question? Note that when this particular phony debate was going on, there was no Jewish question, only a Nazi question. But hardly anybody in power recognized that or wanted to talk about that. In our case, presently, what about the jab question? The vaccine question. There is not a vaccine question. Oh, 1 minute. No. Let's do, that's not the argument. What about the question of saving lives? There we go. Saving lives. Now, you can save lives using the vaccine. No, you can't. The vaccine has actually killed thousands or disabled millions of people worldwide. Whereas you have a 99.5% of recovering from the actual virus. Do you want to be the 0.5% of the people that actually die from it? I don't know that very many people that do, but it's basically Russian roulette, the rule of the jungle, where it comes to infectious diseases. Those who are more highly adapted to surviving will survive. blind loyalty, also blind obedience, the team player appeal, or the team player appeal, or the Nuremberg defense. The dangerous fallacy that an argument or action is right simply and solely because a respected leader or source, an expert, an expert parents one's one's own side, team, or country, one's boss or commanding officer say it is right. This is over reliance on authority, a corrupted argument from ethos that puts loyalty above truth or above one's own reason and conscience. In this case, a person attempts to justify incorrect, stupid, or criminal behavior by whining, "That's what I was told to do," or "I was just following orders." Let's apply this to arguments used in 2020 for masking. The CDC is telling us that it will stop the spread, so let's do it, even though I feel a general malaise when I'm doing it. It fogs my glasses. I'm almost falling asleep on my computer because I can't stay awake, because I'm not getting the oxygen that my brain needs to remain alert. Blood is thicker than water. Also, favoritism, compadrismo, for my friends, anything. The reverse of the ad hominem fallacy, a corrupt argument from ethos, where a statement, argument, or action is automatically regarded as true, correct, and above challenge because one is related to or knows and likes or is on the same team as the individual involved. In other words, my brother-in-law says he saw you goofing off on the job. You're a hard worker, but who am I going to believe, you or him? You're fired. So let's apply this to the last 2 years of the world terrorist attack. You're a good doctor, and you've been practicing very well for the last few years, since you graduated from college. However, do I believe you or do I believe Dr. Fauci? You're discredited as a credible source for medical information. Bribery, also material persuasion, material incentive, financial incentive, the fallacy of persuasion by bribery, gifts or favors, the reverse of the argument ad baculum, as is well known, one who is persuaded by bribery rarely stays persuaded unless the bribes keep on coming in and increasing with time. Bribery, keeping your job if you get vexed, getting a special perk from an institution, like say free grog at a bar, if you get the clot shot, etc., etc. Of course, we got a whole lot of people doing this that are now experiencing the health degradation that these lethal injections are producing, and they have basically come over to the side of those who question the efficacy of these shots. The complex question. The fallacy of demanding a direct answer to a question that cannot be answered without first analyzing or changing the basis of the question itself. In other words, just answer me yes or no. Did you think you could get away with plagiarism and not suffer the consequences? Or why did you rob the bank? Also applies to situations where one is forced to either accept or reject complex standpoints or positions containing both acceptable and unacceptable parts. A corruption of the argument from logos. So in our day, this would be this would be, did you storm the Capitol on January 6th? You're only allowed yes or no. When the question actually to be answered reasonably would have to go into where they were, what they were doing, and how they were doing it. Demanding the yes or no question basically automatically incriminates those whose conduct was in question, regardless of whether they were innocent or not. Or it basically forces them into a lie at their expense and at the advantage of the party who is investigating. Diminished responsibility. The common contemporary fallacy of applying a specialized American judicial concept that criminal punishment should be less if one's judgment was impaired, to reality in general. In other words, you can't count me absent on Monday. I was hung over and couldn't come to class, so it's not my fault. Or, yeah, I was speeding on the freeway and killed a guy, but I was high and didn't know what I was doing, so it didn't matter that much. In reality, the death does matter very, very much to the victim, to his family and friends, and to society in general. Whether the perpetrator was high or not does not matter at all, since the material results are the same. In this case, I was administering the shot because I was scared that if I didn't, I would turn out to be liable in case it actually did what it was supposed to do. So basically taking the responsibility off of your shoulders partially, due to a compromised mental state. Either or reasoning. Also, false dilemma, black and white fallacy. A fallacy that falsely offers only two possible alternatives, even though a broad range of possible alternatives are readily available. In other words, either you are 100% straight or you are as queer as a $3 bill. It's as simple as that, and there is no middle ground. Or either they're with us all the way, or you're a hostile and must be destroyed. Which will it be? So in this case, you're either vaxxed and safe, or you have refused the shot and are a danger to society. Either or reasoning. E, or effort. Also noble effort. the contemporary fallacy that something must be right, true, valuable, or worthy of credit simply because someone has put so much sincere good faith, effort, or sacrifice and blood and bloodshed into it. See also appeal to pity, argument from inertia, or sob story. So in this case, one minute. The lethal injection must be valuable, must work because we put millions of dollars into it, or billions of dollars into it, and we've been promoting it so hard. And we've got it on good faith from acceptable sources that there are no adverse effects. Yeah, there's no adverse effects when you're on death row and get a lethal injection either. You just find yourself knocking on the pearly gates too early. The fallacy or equivocation, the fallacy of deliberate failing to define one's terms or deliberately using words in a different sense than the one the audience will understand. Bill Clinton stating that he did not have sexual relations with that woman, meaning no sexual penetration, knowing full well that the audience will understand his statement as, I had no sexual contact of any sort with that woman. This is a corrupt argument from logos and a tactic often used in American jurisprudence. So let's go ahead and compare this to arguments that, okay, yeah, this is great. Get the vaccine. It will enable you to acquire immunity to the COVID-19 virus. Thing is, they used the word vaccine to make us think that we got some form of immunity from it. However, it's a gene therapy. It's designed to intrinsically change us so we start producing something that our bodies don't produce to begin with, but that resembles rapidly dividing tissues in the body. So it's a gene therapy, it is not a vaccine, and that's what we just found out, or what we just saw was I did not have sexual relations with that woman. This shot will give you immunity. That's why they use the word vaccine. What's interesting is that one of their stooges accidentally slipped and said, and I'm forgetting which stooge it is right now. They've got so many that have revealed themselves. Well, it's simply that we've run out of people eager to be immunized. And then you've got Jen Psaki, one of the other stooges, who actually called the plandemic what it was. It is a plandemic. Of course, by accident. Essentializing a fallacy that proposes a person or thing is what it is, and that it is all that it is, and at its core, it will always be the way it is right now. In other words, all terrorists are monsters and will be terrorist monsters even if they live to be 100. Also refers to the fallacy of argument, arguing that somebody is a certain way by nature. An empty claim no amount of proof can refute. In other words, Americans are cold and greedy by nature, or women are better cooks than men. So those who have gotten the jab are not the threat. Those who didn't get the jab, they're the threat, and will be the threat till they are eliminated. Excluded middle. A corrupt argument from Logos that proposes that since a little of something is good, more must be better. Or that if cutting down on something is good, none at all is better. In other words, if eating an apple a day is good for you, eating an all apple diet is even better. Well, or if a low salt diet prolongs your life, a zero salt diet should make you live forever. Unfortunately, not true. So recently, we've been hearing this argument being used very aptly on the I should say pro-lethal injection side, when they say if 2 doses don't work, get the booster. Introduce more toxins into your system that will compromise your immunity. So basically, that's really a convoluted application of the essentializing logical fallacy that the media has been indulging in for the last 3 months, I think. Well, let's see. No. Let's go this way. If you don't get the jab, more people are going to die. There you go. Essentializing. I just essentialized the jab. Or 1 minute. That wasn't essentializing. That was cutting out the middle. Cutting out the middle. There's no middle ground. You can't be. Basically, it's either death or no death by getting the jab. No, that's more of an essentializing thing, argument. Cutting out the middle. Arguments for mandate. A lot of arguments for mandate cut out the middle ground. False analogy. A fallacy of incorrectly comparing one thing to another in order to draw false conclusions, i.e., just like an alley cat needs to prowl a normal human being can't be tied down to one single lever. So I think I'm going to pick on my side now, because we are balanced center broadcasting, I guess you could say. I don't think anyone's been using that type of fallacy recently. Finish the job. The dangerous contemporary fallacy that an action or standpoint or the continuation of the action or standpoint may not be questioned or discussed because there is a job to be done. Falsely assuming all jobs are meaningless, but never to be questioned. Sometimes those involved internalize, buy into the job, and make the task a part of their own ethos. In other words, ours is not to reason why. Ours is but to do or die. Related to this is the just a job fallacy. How can torturers stand and look at themselves in the mirror, but I guess it's okay because for them it's just a job. See also blind loyalty argument or argument from inertia. So I don't see how doctors can actually administer the jab anymore, seeing its adverse effects. But I guess they're trying to keep their job. Guilt by association. The fallacy of trying to refute or condemn someone's standpoint, arguments, or actions by evoking the negative ethos of those with whom one associates, or a group, religion, or race to which he or she belongs. A form of ad hominem argument. In other words, don't listen to her. She's a Republican, so you can't trust anything she says. Or don't listen to him. He barks like a bulldog, tells things the way he sees them, and attacked an engineered high school shooting, and attacked logically the premise behind an engineered high school shooting. You probably guessed I was probably talking about Alex Jones right there, and his ongoing trials to seek a pound of flesh, his flesh, for having questioned Sandy Hook, the Sandy Hook narrative. Guilt by association. Oh, just did guilt by association. See also, they're not like us. The half-truth. Also, card stacking in incomplete information. A corrupt argument from Logos. The fallacy of telling the truth but deliberately omitting important key details in order to falsify the larger picture and support a false conclusion. In other words, the truth is that Quade Juarez in Mexico is Ciudad Juarez. Okay, I can't pronounce that. Is one of the world's fastest growing cities, and can boast of a young ambitious and hard-working population, mild winters, and a dry and sunny climate. Low-cost medical and dental care, a multitude of churches and places of worship, delicious local cuisine, and a swinging nightclub scene. Taken together, all these facts clearly prove that Juarez is one of the world's most desirable places for young families to live, work, and raise a family. In our case, for the hostage crisis, we will go towards what do we want to pick on? I don't think I'm going to pick on anything else. I already proved that a lot of the arguments we've been using during the past 2 years have been logical fallacies. And I might be running out of battery soon, so I'm just going to go ahead and read through the rest of these. You can go ahead and look at your news consumption and see if you can pick out any logical fallacies. I'm going to quit doing it now. I'm going to continue to the end of the list, but I'm not going to make examples. I wish I had a magic wand. The fallacy of regretfully and falsely proclaiming ourselves powerless to change a bad or objectionable situation. What can we do about high gas prices? As Secretary of Energy, I wish I had a magic wand, but I don't. Shrug. Or no, you can't quit piano lessons. I wish I had a magic wand and could teach you your piano overnight, but I don't. So, like it or not, you have to keep on practicing. The parent, of course, ignores the impossibility that the child may not want to or need to learn the piano. See also Tina. Just in case, a fallacy by which one's argument is based on a far-fetched or completely imaginary worst-case scenario rather than on reality. This plays on pathos, fear, rather than reason. In other words, what if armed terrorists were to attack your own neighborhood, daycare center tomorrow morning? Are you ready to fight back? Better stock up on assault rifles just in case. Do you want to see the hospitals fill up with dead and dying people, get your shot just in case. Lying with statistics, using true figures and numbers to prove unrelated claims. College tuition costs never have been lower when taken as a percentage of the national debt. Getting a college education is actually far cheaper today than it was in 1965. A corrupt argument from Logos. See also half-truth, non-sequitur, and red herring. Myobe. Mind your own business. You're not the boss of me. The appeal to privacy. The contemporary fallacy of arbitrarily prohibiting any discussion of one's own standpoint or behavior no matter how absurd. Argument from ethos. In other words, sure, I was doing 80 and weaving between the lanes on Mesa Street. That's it to you. What's it to you? You're not a cop. You're not my nanny. It's my business to speed and your business to get the hell out of the way. Mind your own business. Or, yeah, I killed my kid. So what? So butt out. Yeah, I killed my kid. So butt out. It's none of your business. See also taboo. Rational discussion is cut off because it is none of your business. Name calling. A variety of ad hominem argument, the dangerous fallacy that's simply because of who you are, any and all arguments, disagreements, or objections against your standpoint or action are automatically racist, sexist, anti-Semitic, bigoted, Sorry, I'm a very popular man this morning, evidently. Also applies to refuting an argument. 1 minute. Bigoted, racist, discriminatory, or hateful. In other words, my stand on abortion is the only correct one. To disagree with me, argue with me, or question my judgment in any way would only show that a big that a big um what a pig you really are. Okay. Also applies to refuting an argument by simply calling it a fallacy or declaring it invalid without proving why it is invalid. See also reductionism. Non sequitur. The fallacy of offering reasons or conclusions that have no logical connection to the argument at hand. In other words, the reason I flunked your course is because the government is now putting out purple $5 bills. See also red herring. Occasionally involves the breathtaking and arrogance of claiming to know why God is doing certain things. In other words, God sent this week's earthquake to punish those people for their great wickedness. Overgeneralization. Also, hasty generalization. The stupid but common fallacy of incorrectly applying one or two examples to all cases. In other words, some college student was tailgating me all the way up North Main Street last night. This proves that all college students are lousy drivers, and we should pull their driver's licenses until either they grow up, learn to drive, or graduate. The paralysis of the paralysis of analysis. I love that. Also, procrastination. A postmodern fallacy that since all data is never in, no legitimate decision can ever be made, and any action should always be delayed until forced by circumstances. A corruption of logic. The argument from Logos. Play on emotions, also the sob story, the classic fallacy of pure argument from pathos, ignoring facts and calling upon emotion alone. In other words, if you don't agree witchcraft is a major problem, just stop for a moment and picture all those poor moms crying bitter tears for their innocent, tiny little children whose little beds and tricycles lie cold and abandoned, all because though of those wicked old witches. Let's string them up. String them all up. Okay, that's an argument from emotion. A lot of that's been going on in the last 2 years in the news. Political correctness, PC. The only PC I use is a personal computer. Oh my goodness, look at that. I need to adjust this because all you're seeing is the top of my head and my eyes. Excuse the delay. Playing on emotions, already did that. Political correctness, a postmodern fallacy that the nature of a thing is situation can be changed simply by changing its name. In other words, we can strike a blow against cruelty to animals by changing the name of pets to animal. Animal companions, or never use the word victim because it sounds so negative, helpless, and desperate, and disparaging. Instead, call them survivors. Of course, if all victims disappear, then perpetrators convincingly vanish as well. Post hoc argument. A post hoc argument, or the too much of a coincidence argument. The classic fallacy that because something comes at the same time or just after something else, the first thing is caused by the second. In other words, AIDS first emerged as a problem during the exact same time that disco music was becoming popular. That's too much of a coincidence. It proves that disco caused AIDS. Or coronaviruses are spread by bats, therefore the coronavirus had to have been in a bat population in China before it spread to humans. Red herring. in in an irrelevant distraction. Oh boy, we are running low on battery, so I'm thinking I will probably, yeah. And in very irrelevant distraction attempting to mislead an audience by bringing up an unrelated but usually emotionally loaded issue. In other words, in regards to my recent indictment for corruption, let's talk about what's really important instead: taxes. Vote for me. I'm going to cut your taxes. Reductionism, also oversimplifying, uh, sloganeering, and talking points. The fallacy of de deceiving an audience by giving simple answers or slogans in response to complex questions, especially when appealing to less educated or unsophisticated audiences. In other words, if the glove doesn't fit, you must you must vote to acquit. Often involved appeals to emotion, pathos. In other words, moms, if you want to protect your little kids from drug pushers, you are giving them dope in crayon box. Who are giving them dope in crayon boxes? Vote for Smith. He's tough on crime. I am going to have to do another thing broadcast to finish up those uh, logical fallacies, but I think I'll probably stop about there because you're getting where I'm coming from. Um, One piece of information I want to leave you with before I lose all power is, or my phone completely discharges, is that in 2016 I voted for Darrell Castle because I personally thought that Donald Trump talked a good con. Recently, with the pushing of the vaccine, I have come to a shaky opinion that he talks a good con again. I voted for him into 2020 because he appeared to be a good person trying to restore the republic. Um, there have been videos with him and what's his name? Henry Kissinger, where Kissinger says he will be the person who ushers in the New World Order, the United Nations as a world power. I really don't know what to think about Donald Trump anymore. However, watching his behavior as with other people's behavior with suspicion is exactly what we're supposed to be doing as citizens. Watching our public servants' behavior to see whether they will uphold a Republican form of government or if they will just appear to do so, but use loads of logical fallacy to get us on their page uh, as they undermine our republic. So as I was saying, during the last 2 years, we have gone through what is known as an apocalypse or a revelation. And we have seen through the logical fallacy used in the news media that the news media is a highly unreliable source of information. Most of the stuff that goes through the COVID information center on Facebook is highly suspect information as well. The PolitiFact, which is another fact-checking institution that Facebook uses, is highly suspect due to logical fallacy. And, well, we need to stay on top of who is using logical fallacy to evoke fear in us so that we can become those winter soldiers, those people who will keep fighting for our liberty in spite of the adversity we're going through. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please like, subscribe, comment whether you liked it or not, because we need to start the dialogue. And make sure the comments are clean. We do like this content available to all ages. And please share, because especially this particular episode is going to be very controversial, and it's probably going to get flagged as misinformation. With that, this has been Faces of Truth Live, where we attempt to help Americans think for themselves again, and in the process, bring truth to the minds of humanity. Stay free, and we'll see you next time.